May was far and away my best reading month so far for 2025, and I'm so excited to talk to you about all of the wonderful books I read. So let's dive into my reading journal. I've got trackers to update, I've got bingos to fill in, I've got review spreads to make, and I have books to rave about, and I'm going to take you with me through it all. Hi, I'm Erin, and I think I've been in a reading slump all year, but now I'm finally getting my groove back. This spectacular journal is my reading journal, and it is from Archer and Olive. It's their heirloom journal from April 2024. I hoarded it for quite some time before I started using it. It's 9 inches by 9 inches, so this journal is massive. And we're going to kick off by updating my yearly trackers, starting with this one, which is just a list of all of the books I've read. Usually I like to attack my reading journal in a couple of separate sessions throughout the month, but I did not have time for that this time, so we're doing all of it in one go, which is funny because this is the month where I've read the most this year. It was quite the journaling marathon, let me tell you. I have my reading goal for this year set to 60 books, and I'm feeling pretty good about it because I'm currently on track to achieve that if all goes according to plan and I keep up the rate of reading that I have been sustaining so far. Not that a reading goal really means anything, but let me know if you have a reading goal for 2025 and how close you are to achieving it at this kind of halfway point of the year. I'm currently at 28 books, so not quite half of 30. As long as I finish 2 books in June, I guess I'll be on track. Just in case you didn't know, I have my very own book club that I run through the channel membership program here on YouTube. We're called the Page Majors, and we read 1 book a month and then have a little chat about it at the end of the month. And our book for June is Blood Over Bright Haven by M.L. Wang. Thank you so much to Dragona for suggesting this one. All of our book club books are suggested by the book club members. And I've actually made a start on this one already. I like to try to read the book club books a little bit early so I can come up with some discussion questions for them and get them to everyone else in case they want to know what the questions are before they read the book so they can think about it as they go. Confession. I hate my series tracker. I don't like the way I've set this up at all, and I've barely done much to it, so I am kind of toying with the idea of just covering it with sticker paper, but I did want to add a series on there that I have been reading. I read 2 of them throughout May, and so I wanted to make sure I had a space to track that because I plan to finish it pretty soon. Onward to my book bingo. I haven't touched this in a while. When I made all the updates to my reading journal last month, I was doing this project where I was only using 1 pen, and it meant that I kind of couldn't color this in with the colors that I'd used to set it up, and I really wanted to stick to those colors, so I just didn't do anything to the book bingo. So I'm retroactively filling in a few things here. I can color in fairy tale retelling because one of the books that I read was that. I can color in a reread because I have reread a book this month, and I'm coloring in biography as well. It's technically a memoir, but I figure those are kind of an overlapping thing, right? So that's the bingo in the top left. The bingo in the bottom right is a rom-com trope bingo, and I've got a couple of things to colour in there too, although those are mostly really retroactive. Like The Glitch, I read a while ago, I just hadn't looked at this in a bit, so Second Chance Romance I can colour in for The Glitch. 7 Summers by Paige Toon I realised counts as a celebrity romance, so I was like, oh yeah, let's add that one in too. I read that a while ago as well. For the same reason, my 1 pen project, I also hadn't updated my tracker here because I try to match the colour that I colour in the books on the tracker to the colour of the theme for that month. You'll see what I mean by the theme when we get to the monthly tracker pages rather than these yearly ones, but now that's up to date. This is what I mean by a monthly tracker page. This is my May monthly tracker, and it has so much work to be done on it. I like to place a calendar in the middle of the spread, and that's where I track the start and end dates of the books that I read. I just like this visual representation of the data. It's really satisfying to me. On the left side of that, I like to have my stats for the month that I'll fill out once I'm finished reading everything. And on the right side, I like to have my book covers because I don't really read physical books. So this is really the only way I get to interact with the book covers. And I really like the way the spread looks once it's all done. But I need to print some more. So I'm just keeping this little stack of sticky notes on hand, and every time I come across a spot where I need a book cover, I'm just going to write it down so I remember when I go to print some more. I've taken to printing and cutting my book covers with my home printer on some sticker paper and then cutting them out as Kiss Cut stickers with my Cricut, and I have a whole video about how I make that happen in case you're keen to check it out. This is kind of what the sheet looks like once it's done. I've got it down to a bit of an art now. I've managed to make the process quite streamlined. I used to use an HP Sprocket for this, which is one of those mini portable zinc printers, and it's really good, but the paper for that's really expensive, so this way I'm getting a little bit more bang for my buck. There's nothing wrong with the Sprocket way, and I still do that sometimes. If I get to the end of the setup and I need to print like a couple of book covers twice, then I'll still go with the Sprocket, but for bulk stuff, I think the new system works really well for me. Since the theme for my May stats spread here is all about greenery and plants, I've pulled out just about every green marker I own, and I'm using those to create some variety across the calendar so it's really clear which books are which colours and where they start and end. I set this spread up in my previous reading journal video, the one that talked about what I read in April and was getting set up for May, and I chose this theme for May because I have been participating in the Bujo Buddies Book Club's Goober Readathon. It was a really adorable reading challenge that happened over the course of May, and the theme was around helping a little ghost character with his botanical studies, which is so cute. Hence the leafy and floral theme for May. I actually have a whole spread dedicated to the Goober Readathon as well, which we will fill out later on. We'll do all of the review spreads and stuff first, and then we'll come back and sort that out at around about the same time as the stats for May. For now, I'm just really enjoying filling this calendar out with all of my range of colourful markers, because when I did this last month, when I was just using one pen, I had to keep switching out reservoirs and tips and things, and it was a little bit of a pain. So it's been really nice to streamline that process this month and just use a bunch of pens. I thought I didn't have a book cover printed for this one. This is Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins, but I just found one in my sticker book, so big thanks to past me for being so organised on that. The book covers on the right there that have a star rating under them are the ones we're going to review in this video, and the ones that I'm not putting a little star rating stamp underneath are the ones that I am still reading into June. Before we go any further, I want to tell you about something really cool I just learned. If you caught my recent new bullet journal setup video, you'll know I've been trying to get into dip pen calligraphy and not having much luck. It was time to turn to the pros for help, so I took a class on Skillshare called Modern Calligraphy with a Dip Pen for Beginners with teacher Nikki Hess. I swear the way this class joined the dots in my brain. Nikki shared an absolutely wild tip for prepping a new nib. I have had zero luck cleaning the oils off them so far, and I think that's part of why I've been struggling so much. This genius teacher stabs her nibs into a potato. I tried it. Suddenly, my nib's holding. It is so on now. Nikki also had a lot of great advice about choosing the right inks and the right paper types as well. I'm coming to realize this stuff really makes a difference. Skillshare is the sponsor of this video and is also always the first place I turn when I have creativity questions. It's a learning hub for creatives packed full of classes taught by professional artists, entrepreneurs, designers, creators of all kinds. You can learn all about art and illustration, design, photography, or yes, indeed, calligraphy, directly from talented, successful creatives who've already made that thing their career. Skillshare are currently offering a super special 7-day free trial, plus 20% off your first year and a 30-day money-back guarantee, but you can only access this offer through my link and QR code. This is your chance to invest in your ongoing creative growth. The first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan the QR code will receive 20% off their first year of Skillshare. Get started today. Thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. With the annual and the monthly trackers sorted out, we can now move on to the first of the book reviews. Because of time constraints and energy constraints, I've decided to go with some minimal style reviews for this month mixed in with some more decorative ones. So books that I don't feel like I have stationery to go with, or I've read before, or I didn't enjoy enough maybe to give it its own page, I'm going to do this kind of half-page setup instead. I did this for a few books back in January as well, and it works really well. It saves so much time. If you're a particularly prolific reader, it also means that you save a lot of space. You can fit a lot more books into a single notebook. I'm doing 2 to a page here, so I could fit 4 books to a spread rather than 2, which I do typically when I have a whole page for a book review. We're starting with If I Never Met You by Mhairi McFarlane. This was actually a reread for me, and it came about because of a really special project. I collaborated with Wrong Wrong from Shop Wrong Wrong over on her channel for a book club themed live stream. She actually had her community members over on Facebook vote on the genre, and romance was the winner, and so I supplied a list of 4 books for them to choose from, and they voted for If I Never Met You, which made me really happy because I'd read it before and loved it. Mhairi McFarlane, if you haven't read any of her books before, it is pronounced Mhairi, even though it's spelled with an MH. It's a Scottish name, I believe. She is an incredible writer. Her turn of phrase is so particular. In my opinion, she is the funniest rom-com author that I have come across. Our main character, Laurie, she's been in a long-term relationship forever, and she's completely blindsided by her partner cheating on her. She teams up with the guy that's perceived as the office playboy to kind of get back at the ex and make him a little bit jealous while he gets ahead in his career out of this arrangement. But wouldn't you know it, maybe their first impressions of each other were not all that accurate. I first read this book in 2020 when it first came out, and I think it was actually my first ever fake dating rom-com, and I loved it so much. That's one of my favorite tropes, and this is the book that started it for me. I didn't enjoy it quite as much on my reread because I have read a lot of stuff since then, but I still think it's a really solid, enjoyable one. And if you do it on audiobook, you get to hear some really fun Yorkshire and Welsh accents too, which is really enjoyable. On my first read, based on vibes alone, I gave it 5 stars. I'm giving it 4 based on my Peach system, which was just 4 out of 5 across the board. Moving on to Sunrise on the Reaping, I think a lot of people have been reading this recently. It only came out very recently. This is the prequel to the Hunger Games books that is in between the last book, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and the Hunger Games where it kicks off. So this one follows Haymitch. I tell you what, Suzanne Collins is the master of having the stories interweave in a way that is completely believable. Like, I think she had all these details planned from the start and then was like, hey, I think there's a book in that, like way down the track. So it is so believable. Of course, going into any of the books in this universe, you know it's going to be devastating. I personally didn't find I connected with this one quite as much as The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, despite the fact that Haymitch is a much better person than President Snow. That doesn't mean that I didn't enjoy it though. I thought it was really good. I think it was really well done. Just hasn't stayed with me. I've given it 4.1, which I round down to 4 on my star ratings here. We also need to colour in the star rating for If I Never Met You, which was pretty similar. Both really good reads, but not ones that I think I would hurry back to immediately. I am so pumped to see the Sunrise on the Reaping movie though when that comes out. I think they always do such a good job of the Hunger Games series adaptation, so can't wait to see that. Moving on to an actually decorative reading journal spread this time, because this series has me in a chokehold. I am currently completely obsessed with everything and anything that Brigid Kemmerer has ever done. This is A Curse So Dark and Lonely, which is the first book in the Cursebreaker trilogy, and I have talked about it a little bit already despite having not read it, because I've read the first book in the series that follows after this, which is called Forging Silver into Stars. I raved about that book not too long ago, but the experience of reading that one first definitely meant that there were many spoilers for this series. I still decided I was going to go back to the very beginning and read from the start of the first series before I continued on with the follow-up. Fun fact about me, my favourite book series for a really long time was the Dresden Files series by Jim Butcher, and I first read Proven Guilty, which I think is like book 8 or something, before I read any of the others, so this is kind of a tradition for me, jumping in the middle. The British magic school boy who lived story that we don't talk about anymore as well, I also started that one from book 4, so this is just how I roll apparently. Similarly to the book that is probably the most popular fantasy romance series of all time, this first book in this series, A Curse So Dark and Lonely, is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but it's better than the other one, in my opinion. And I really like the ACOTAR series, so do with that information what you will. Our male main character, his name is Ren, and he is the prince of a kingdom that is in absolute ruin because he has been cursed, hence the title. He has to repeat the same season over and over and over again while he tries to break this curse, and at a certain point in that season, he becomes a horrible beast that just kills mindlessly. And the way that he breaks it is, of course, to have a woman fall in love with him. After immeasurable seasons of this, he starts sending his right-hand man into the real world, like our world, to procure women once he's exhausted kind of his own society. There's some kind of like portal link between Emberfall, their world, and Washington, DC, which they call like DC, like it's another land in their fantasy world. And our incredible female main character, her name is Harper, and she is an excellent case of cerebral palsy representation in a fantasy novel, accidentally witnesses this guard guy trying to kidnap a woman from DC, and she like bashes him with a tire iron, and so he takes her instead. There is something about Brigid Kemmerer and the way that she approaches her characters and her storylines that is just so much more believable to me than a lot of the other fantasy stories I've read. These people make choices that seem believable to me. They aren't always necessarily going, well, I have to do the right thing. They're not always certain what that is. There's a lot more room for nuance and a lot more grey area in her stories, and I really appreciate that. I also think, from my perspective as a straight, white, cisgender woman, that there's a lot of really good representation in her stories as far as ethnicities and queerness and disability. I just think they are chef's kiss. I am not someone who collects physical books. I have kept the physical book that I received in a book box of Forging Silver into Stars, which is the one that got me into this author and her series. But I enjoyed this book and the one following it, which I also read this month, so much that I kind of want these for a bookshelf that I don't have. That's how much I like them. I also don't usually enjoy having a storyline spoiled for me, but because I've read that kind of essentially book 4, it's a different series, book 1, but you get the idea. I know where this is going to end up, but I don't totally know how we're going to get there, so this is still a really enjoyable ride for me, and it feels kind of safe because I know where we're going. I'm giving this one 4.4 on my Peach rating system, and that means it's going to be 4.5 stars once I round it up. And if you're not sure what this rating system is all about, I actually devised this one myself. I have a video explaining it on my channel in case you want to check that out, and I did name it after one of my cats. Every book that I read this year that scores over 4.25 stars is going into my Hall of Fame spread back here at the beginning, so I want to make sure I get A Curse So Dark and Lonely down on that page before we carry on. I don't really have a sizing convention for the covers on that page, so it looks a bit haphazard, but I sort of like it that way. It's like a gallery wall, you know? Onward to our Page Majors book club read for the month of May. Thank you to Rachel for suggesting this one. This is The Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. If you also run a book club, this is such a good suggestion for a book. It has so much potential for discussion. We had a really wide range of opinions on this book. Some people really enjoyed it. We had quite a few people choose not to finish it, which is quite unusual for my book club. The discussion we had for this book was so lively. Everyone had different theories about the mechanics of the magic in this book. Everyone had different theories about the characters and their character and their agency. It was just the most rich discussion. I loved every second. As the title suggests, there are a lot of doors involved in this book, so I've gone to some stamps in my collection. I've had these for ages, actually. I think I originally got them from Stationery Pal? They don't have them anymore, sadly, but I did find them on Amazon, so I can still link them for you. I like to make a big fuss of my book club books in my journal because it's just so much fun. So the story of The Book of Doors, we're following a young woman named Cassie who suddenly finds herself in possession of this magical book called The Book of Doors that allows her to make any door into every door. All she has to do is picture the door that she wants to walk through on the other side and have the book on her, and she can travel anywhere and also any when. As you can imagine, this kind of book is highly sought after by the small community of people who know that it exists, and there are other books that have similar functions, like the Book of Joy, the Book of Memory, the Book of Safety. Suddenly, Cassie finds herself embroiled in this world of dark dealings and murder and betrayal, and she teams up with a cute Scottish chappie who just wants to collect the books and keep them safe in his amazing magical library in Scotland. Such an incredible concept for a story. I just don't feel like it was executed to the standard that I would have liked to see. As I was reading it, I did this one on audiobook, so I guess as I was listening to it, I could really picture the world really vividly, and I kept thinking like this would make a great movie in the hands of the right screenwriter who can improve upon the source material and make a really solid script. It was also one of those cases where the main character was female, but she was written by a man, and sometimes she would say something and you'd be like, really? Is that what you think we think? Is that what you think we talk about? I just felt like I didn't really believe her. I didn't really like the character of Cassie. She seemed sort of bland and like two-dimensional to me. Her best friend and housemate Izzy is also quite instrumental in the story, and I didn't really believe their friendship either. Like it didn't seem like they were close enough to have the level of friendship that they were claiming to have. Like for the first half of the book, I genuinely didn't believe that Izzy actually liked Cassie. I don't know, I just didn't buy it. Whenever we discuss a book for my Page Majors book club, I like to come up with some discussion questions so that I can kind of guide us through and give people something to think about while they read the book. So I like to include those questions in my journal as well. My final rating for The Book of Doors is 3 stars, and if you're keen to join us to read Blood Over Bright Haven by ML Wang in the month of June, you can do that. If you'd like, there is a link to join the channel membership down below. We have our discussions over on Discord, so you'll need to join the Discord server and link it to your YouTube account if you do this to be able to see like where we're having our chats. I'm going back to my minimal layouts for the next 2 reviews, partly because I just don't feel like I have the stationery to do these ones justice. I actually quite enjoyed both of these books, but I just don't have, like, what do you put on an autobiography memoir type of page? Like, what do you do with that? I also have these book covers that I've printed out to go specifically on my Goober Readathon spread, but I kept getting confused, like, why do I have so many book covers? So I'm just going to place those ones down. I don't usually have this extra spread in a normal month, so I thought I'd better get them down on the page and work out which ones I still needed to print too, because I was missing a few. Sometimes I will print the covers for the books I've placed library holds for, and then I will snooze that library hold. I'll keep asking it to deliver later for months and months and months. So I've had a few book covers just in my sticker books, just waiting for several months now that I haven't got to, because I've got other things I wanted to read first. I'm sorry, Legendborn. I will get to you, I promise. I can finally fill in some placeholders as well. I've got the book cover for Two Can Play Here by Hazelwood, which is the next one we're going to talk about. I have converted this into a vertical format because this is like a Spotify audiobook, so it's only really available in the square format for the image, but I just added some color and turned it into a normal book cover size. The Spotify audiobook thing is so wild because I didn't listen to it on Spotify. I listened to it through the library, but it was produced by Spotify. They were the production company, which is super weird. This is one of Hazelwood's novellas. So she has lots of these kind of short stories that fit into the universe of her STEMinist novels, but are not really tied into the main plots of the main characters. Our main character of this one's name is Viola, and she is a video games developer, and she's on a company retreat with another video games company, kind of their rivals, who are going to be working with them, presumably, on a really big game that's being adapted from a book that is really important to our Viola. So naturally, the team leader of the opposing company is Jesse, a guy that she has had a crush on for a really long time after meeting him in a job interview at one point, and he, for no apparent reason, completely hates her, and she has no idea what to do about it. Look, if you've read one Hazelwood STEMinist novella or novel, you've kind of read them all. They are kind of formulaic, but I say this every time. She does it so well. I always find them really enjoyable. So not one of my favorites, this one, Two Can Play, but I didn't have a bad time with it at all. I kind of was looking for a palate cleanser, and that's exactly the purpose that this one served for me. It's always woman in tech or medicine, gets great opportunity, has to work with man who hates her, who actually secretly loves her and has forever. And at some point, some dude will be really sexist towards her and he will be there to defend her. And that's the formula. But you know what? I eat it up. I come back for it every time. I was discussing this book with a friend recently, and we realized that Hazelwood's system of writing these little short novellas around the universe is very fanfic of her, which is great because she was a fanfic author. So it just makes so much sense. It's like she's adding a little one shot to tide you over while you're waiting for the big release, 3.6 for this one. I wasn't super invested in it, but I also had a pretty good time. I didn't expect much from it, so 3.6 is pretty good, I think. When I printed a bunch of book covers, you didn't see that part happen, but it did magically behind the scenes. I remembered that I actually DNF'd a book this month. It was Under Lock and Key by Lana Ferguson. Sounded cute, but I don't know, I think I've just hit a point of rom-com saturation where you can start reading a book and be like, I've read this book before. I've read this book 1,000 times before by 100 different authors. I don't want to do this again. And that was the case with this one. So I got to 6% and I was like, no, thank you. Return my library hold. Thank you very much. So I added that to the calendar tracker and to my did not finish page. And now we can move on to a book that I loved, that I ate up, that I absolutely finished. And that is The Third Gilmore Girl by Kelly Bishop, which is my second nonfiction book of the year, which is 2 more nonfiction books than I read last year. If you aren't familiar with Kelly Bishop, she was the grandmother Emily Gilmore on Gilmore Girls, which is where I know her mostly from. She was also in Dirty Dancing as Baby's mum, and she's been in just about every Amy Sherman Palladino adaptation that ever has been. In fact, not just about, I think she's been in all of them. She's now 81 years old, and this is her memoir reflecting on her entire career and life, going all the way back to when she was one of the original members of the cast of A Chorus Line, which I had no idea about, which is wild that I didn't know that. She got her start as a dancer, and as an avid dancer myself, I just connected so much with her story. I listened to the audiobook of this one, and she narrates it herself. She is such an incredible narrator, and if you've ever watched Gilmore Girls, you'll know they speak very quickly on that show. That is her natural cadence. I actually usually listen to my audiobooks somewhere around 1.4 speed. I had to put Kelly back down to 1.1 because she is a quick talker like me. I respect it. This one's not a super long read. It's around about 6 hours something on the audiobook, 256 pages for the published version. I loved it so much. I gave it 4.2, which I'm rounding up to 4.25 stars, which means it's going into the Hall of Fame spread as well. I kind of forgot to do the rounding on the initial page though, so I'll go back and add that extra quarter star. I recommend it if you are a dancer, if you're an aspiring actor, if you loved Gilmore Girls, or even just if you need a really uplifting read from someone who has an incredible attitude towards life. Since I busted out a fountain pen ink to paint on this page, Mitsu knows when there's going to be a mess and he's come to help me out. And I have, of course, immediately splattered ink on my desk mat. Excuse me a moment while I try to sort that out. This is the Book of Botany fountain pen ink from Ferris Wheel Press, and I'm using it as the basis for my review spread once I get it off my desk mat here for the second book in the Cursebreaker series, which we talked about the first one not too long ago. That one was A Curse So Dark and Lonely. This one is A Heart So Fierce and Broken. I feel like there's only so much I can talk about, this being book 2 of a series, without giving you spoilers, and I never like to give you spoilers in the voiceover, but I will tell you that this book focuses on a different main character pairing. It's still a dual point of view, but it's from the perspective of Grey, who was the king's right-hand man in the first book, and of Liamara, who is the daughter of the queen of the warring opposing kingdom. This book also introduces the character of Tycho, who was one of the 3 leads of the Forging Silver into Stars book that I loved so much, so it was great to get to see him as a little boy, kind of as a teenager. We get to see a lot more of the kingdom, of the lands in this story, and it's really a story of loyalty and trust and learning to follow your own inner compass and following your values above everything else. Since I usually do my setups for my reading journal in a couple of different sessions, I knew I was going to be doing 7 books worth of setups here in one go, so I thought I'd make life a bit easier on myself and made some stickers for this one and for its predecessor as well. I used the same font for both of them, and I actually used this font on the Forging Silver into Stars spread that I did a while ago too. It's called Cinzel Decorative. It's such a good fantasy font because you can just add a capital anywhere that you want that little decorative part, like on the N of broken and the R of fierce. So appropriate that the sticker for the word broken broke, don't you think? I'm trying to match the book cover somewhat with the green fountain pen ink that I've just kind of smeared a little vortex of. And I have this roll of PET pre-cut stickers from Cora Creative Crafts that came in their, I believe, medieval subscription box. It's got a lot of castles and knights and stuff on it, and this is a fairly medieval fantasy kind of a world, so that felt appropriate. Some of these are pretty AI looking. I didn't know that at the time that I bought them, but I have them in my collection and I don't really want to waste stuff that I have in my collection, so I'm going to use them anyway. Just know that if you're avoiding AI, these ones are probably not for you. Something I love about Brigid Kemmerer's writing is that she is really quotable. There are always a few snippets in there that are just so incredibly great to letter on a spread like this. There was one for the spread that I did for the last book, and this one has one as well that I think is really great. I actually don't remember which character said this, whether it was Grey or Liamara. I feel like it was probably one of them. Maybe it was Isaac, not sure. But it is, do not fault yourself for choices you believed were right in the moment, which is, I believe, a really powerful, really compassionate statement that shows somebody's strength just as much as it shows their understanding. I got the ebook through the library and I have since returned it, so I can't actually go back and check, but I did have this one highlighted in my Goodreads, and I googled it just now to check, and it's apparently followed up with the statement, "It is not princely," which makes me think it was probably Isaac. Completely on par as far as enjoyment of this book with the first one in the series. I really liked it. They got very similar ratings from me as well. I finished this one on the 22nd of May and I have been itching ever since to dive into the third one, but I had some other stuff that I kind of felt like I had to read first, and so I haven't got to it yet, but trust, it will be in the next video for sure. I'm certain my next reading journal video, we will have A Vow So Bold and Deadly. And then I guess I get to read Forging Silver into Stars again before I do the next book in that series, so looking forward to that. I've given this one 4.5 stars, which is the same rating as its predecessor. Technically 0.1 more than A Curse So Dark and Lonely, but I really think as far as enjoyment, I enjoyed them the same. So of course, to truly celebrate it, I'm going to put it on the Hall of Fame spread here as well, and I do anticipate that it will have its third brother next to it very soon. Those are all the books I read through the month of May, so let's now look at my May reading stats. I completed 7 books through the course of May, and on average they took me 7 days to finish. The page count is probably not accurate, actually. I've just realized because I did a couple of audiobooks that were a fair bit shorter than 300 to 499 pages. So I guess Storygraph is counting those as time listened, which I didn't do a pie chart for, but that's okay. 14% of my reads this month were non-fiction versus 86% fiction, and the genres I covered from most consumed to least were romance, fantasy, contemporary, dystopian, magical realism, YA, memoir, and literary. 71% of the books I read this month were from the library, 29% of them were books that I paid for in some way, mostly Audible credits. I almost always use an Audible credit for our book club book actually, because sometimes the library queue waits for those are much longer than the time frame that I have to get them read, so they come in handy for that. 71% audiobook to 29% digital for the month of May, and my average rating was 3.96, so basically 4 stars. That's pretty good. Again, I think the page count, in the past when I had Storygraph count audiobooks by pages rather than time, it used to display a much higher number than this. So this must just be from my ebooks. I read 954 pages versus 47.37 hours listened for audio. That's a setting you can toggle on and off in Storygraph, I believe. I have it set to count audio separately at the moment, but I don't know if that's helpful for me. Anyway, if you're keen to be friends on Storygraph, there is a link to my Storygraph down in the description, and I also have Goodreads, but I'm not actively updating it anymore, so when it does update, it's usually just my Kindle finishing a book for me and telling Goodreads, you know? Once my pie charts are all coloured in with some green, I have completed my May stats, my May trackers, and my May book cover record, so we can move on to the next page, which is all about the Goober Readathon, which is a really fun community event that's hosted by the Bujo Buddies Book Club. That's hosted by Jashi Corinne and Monica of Bibliophile by Night and Rachel of Rachel.Bujos. This is the second Goober Readathon. I also participated last year, and I printed out all of the instructions and everything for myself so it would be easy to reference at the end of the month, but I didn't actually actively read to fit the prompts. I just read what I wanted to read, and now I am retroactively applying my books to the prompts. So in part A, you needed to complete the prompts in order. I am not totally certain that I'm following the correct order of, books read through the month, but I'm just kind of applying them to the categories in whatever order they make sense. So it's possible I'm doing it wrong here. But If I Never Met You is a book that I own. I bought the ebook the first time around that I read it, so I'm putting that into the native plant section. Item 1, Local Flora, a book you own, for 1 point. I'm assigning A Heart So Fierce and Broken to item 2 from Native Plants, which is a continuation of a series, for 2 points. I've written things down wrong here, but I'm assigning 2 Could Play to Could Cure a Reading Slump, which is Medicinal Plants, item 1, for 1 point. A Curse So Dark and Lonely, I'm assigning to Medicinal Plants item 2, which is a retelling, folklore, or a traditional story, for 2 points. My white sticker paper is coming in clutch here because I keep making mistakes because I have been journaling for hours at this point. I'm going to assign the third Gilmore Girl to the Aquatic Plants section, item 1, which is Micro Aquarium, for a book that has 300 pages or less. That's going to get me 1 point. And I'm jumping down to part B, the Advanced Plant Studies, which don't have to be completed in any particular order, and I'm going to assign the Book of Doors to the Advanced Horticulture section, Community Gardens, a poll-picked book, because that is how we pick our books for the page majors. We have a little poll over in my Discord. Sunrise on the Reaping is covering Medicinal Plants item 3, Farmer Botanicals, which is a book set in or focusing on the future, because Panem is supposed to be us in the future, in case you didn't know that. Yikes. And I'm just tallying up my points down the bottom here. I have realized actually since that I forgot to factor something in. There are some perks that you could include if you completed the Goober Readathon 2024. I'm just not going to worry about that. I'm going to take my 14 points and I'm very proudly going to be a botanical bud. I'm leaving 1 page blank after my A Heart So Fierce and Broken review page. That's just where my first reviews are going to go. Once we get into June, I'm happy to just put that in the May pages. That doesn't bother me too much. I'm also currently reading 2 books that I started in May that I'll be finishing in June, so it doesn't feel too out of place to have them overlap like that. But we've moved on to my stats and trackers pages for June. I feel like I've got this spread pretty well nailed down. It works really well for me at the moment, but I wanted to make it a bit more fun and exciting visually this month. And I really vibed with my May bullet journal theme, which was a dark academia theme. So I'm kind of leaning back into that, but with some different supplies. It is finally officially winter in the Southern Hemisphere, and we are getting some nice wintry weather in Brisbane. That comes with a disclaimer because wintry weather in Brisbane is like summer weather in some other parts of the world. Like, I'm so excited about the weather today. It's still 23 degrees Celsius. I think that's like 73 Fahrenheit. It's warm for most places' standards, but this is about as cold as we get, so I'm excited about it. And I'm determined to wring as much coziness out of this journal spread as I can to go with the mild coziness of the season here. So I'm starting out with some washi tapes and some PET tapes from the Wrong Dark Academia Bookworm PET and washi tape set. And I'm teaming those up with a bunch of frames, also from Wrong from the Junk Journaling sticker book. My plan is to use these frames as the spaces where I write the statistics for the month, so I'm going to have a different frame for each of the things that I like to track. I did something like this before actually. It was my February 2024 reading journal stats page setup, and it was also all about frames, but I stamped those frames instead. So once I saw all the frames available in this sticker book, I was like, oh, I know what I need to do with these. And all the stickers in that sticker book are paper stickers as well, so they're really easy to write on. You don't have to worry about them being too shiny for your pen to stick to. I knew I was going to stick a whole bunch of frames to this page, but I didn't really know how they were all going to fit together, so this is definitely a bit of a flying by the seat of my pants lesson in tessellation. I love that there are these circle frames, because how good are they going to be for my pie charts? I'm just going to do 3 this time rather than 4, because they just simply will not fit on the spread. And I like the way they look all next to each other down the bottom here, and I didn't want to move the genre sticker there, so we're going to work with what we can. I'm going to eliminate the page count pie chart because I just don't feel like that's useful information, and I like the other 3 more, so that's what I'm going to do here. But everything else I'm tracking on this spread, I'm just copying over from my May stats page, because if it isn't broken, I'm not going to try and fix it. It's not all going to be brown tones though with black lettering. I have done some green lettering, it's hard to see on camera, for the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday on the calendar, but I'm also using this beautiful deep red washi tape to kind of fill in the gaps really. And then to make the 2 pages feel cohesive together, I'm going to take some of that same tape over onto the right side of the spread. We're going to line the top and bottom with it. We're going to bring a little bit under the calendar, and we'll add some other little extra elements from the PET and washi tape set too. I don't want to go too hard on this space because obviously I'm going to need lots of room for book covers and star ratings, so I don't want to eat into that area, but I also still want to make sure I have some interest going on, because right now the left side is really busy and the right side is really empty. Of course that's going to change over time, but I just want to make them feel good right now as well. I'm going to add another layer on top of the washi tape on the right page too. This one's a PET tape of some books, kind of like a bookshelf design, but this one feels a little disjointed. Like some of the book stacks don't make sense dimensionally with the others, but the colors are right for what I'm doing here, so I'm just gonna roll with it. I'm positioning it on the bottom of the spread so that they're sitting right on top of the tape, so it almost looks like the tape is a shelf. I don't have quite enough room to do that at the top of the spread as well, so this one's going to cover a bit of the red to act more like a background, but that's going to leave me with enough space for my book covers, so I can't be mad at it. I still like the overall effect. Let's go ahead and add the book covers for the 2 books that are crossing over for me from May into June. Those are Blood Over Bright Haven, our book club book, of course, for the page majors, and The Hedge Witch of Foxhall by Anna Bright. That's going to help with the visual weight of this side being quite empty right now, and also it's a little teaser for next time, so if you want to find out what I think of those books, you'll have to come back for next month's video. But for now, let's have a flip through from the beginning of May all the way through to where we're up to now. Thank you so much for talking books with me. I really enjoy this time with you, and I'd love to know what you've been reading as well. So let me know down in the comments what your top read was for the month of May. And if you've also read any of the books that I've covered in this video, I'd love to know your thoughts on those too. Do we agree? Do we disagree? All opinions are valid. Books are a subjective thing. So even if I'm saying I really didn't enjoy something and you loved it, that is not a slight on you. We just have different experiences of books. And I think that's actually really cool and interesting. If you're keen to keep talking about books with me, here is a link to the playlist of all of my reading journal videos so far this year. And under that is a link to one of my videos specifically chosen for you by the YouTube algorithm. Happy June reading!